Production happened because I actually just pursued mixing. And I was like, I loved mixing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it started as I love recording. And then I was like, I want it to sound better. I'm going to record so I can work on making things sound better. So I literally would record. I would like take all of my writing, like anything I could do to mix something, I would do. I did it for fun. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just end up learning production and recording and other stuff you can't get to that stage. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've just picked up stuff as I did that for the most part. It wasn't until a few years ago that I like actually was like, I'm going to look at native instrument stuff and like try to like work on like sounds and stuff. You know what I mean?
Some more sound design kind of things.
Yeah. It was always just like, I just need to find something that's good. And like, I want to like fuck around with that. And that was like the extent of me exploring production was I just want something that sounds really, really good. Like that would also like would make me work on it, but isn't like raw, like it just sounds really good. I don't know, something like that.
I definitely vibe with that because I kind of had a similar experience. Like I thought I was just gonna like mix forever, and then I started like working with bands in person, and then the more that I got into production, the more, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, I guess you could say processed everything became. You know, where it's like I was really getting into, you know, how can I manipulate audio to do crazy shit, and that is what kind of got me into pop music. You know, it was like, well, I'm writing these songs and structuring these songs like pop songs, and I'm doing crazy production stuff. I should probably learn how to make a pop song. And then it's just kind of like all just went into there. And then it's now just recently, like I'm really trying to do my best to get into synthesis. And so it's, I don't know, it's kind of funny, like seeing how like you'll get like a taste of something and then like 6 months later you're like knee deep in it, you know? So
it's nuts, man. That's exactly what happened. Like mixing is really the only thing that isn't guitar that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like it. That's like my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what you got some of your bigger credits for was for mixing, right?
Yeah, it's like most of my work. Like 90% of my work is mixing. And like I actively try to work doing mixing like the most. I don't like go out there and be like, who wants to record their record with me? I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah. It's more of a send me your stuff and let me make it sound very good.
Yeah. I love that. Like that's just more my favorite. Like I think it's all interesting. All music production, the whole process is interesting. But there's some stuff I don't want to do. I don't want to mic up a drum kit ever. I don't like tuning vocals. I don't know how to mic up a drum kit properly. I'm very glad I don't mic up an amp anymore. Like I just don't like doing that stuff. It's not the part that like interests me. I like learning about it when I meet somebody that's like really good at it and we're in a situation where they can like show me.
Like that's whenever you learn the most. Like getting to hang out with Lee while he was like engineering a drum session was like crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Because like I didn't have like I grew up in Pittsburgh, so like there weren't too many studios back home, so I never had the opportunity to like come up under somebody in a studio, and so it was really cool, you know, like sitting down and like watching how he does everything, because a lot of it's very similar, but then a lot of it is very different, you know, and watching how he would do things just because that's just how the room sounds, you know, and it was really, really neat, you know, because drums are definitely an art. Like you have guys who are like okay at miking drums and engineering drums, and then you have guys where it's just like that's what they live for. Like everything else, you know, like mixing records, producing, whatever they're doing, that's just a way for them to have an excuse once every couple months to get in and like really kill a drum session. And like I just think it's the coolest thing, you know.
The thicker the tape measure, the better the engineer. Like, and that's the other thing is if you need a tape measure to do something in music, that's complicated. Like anything that requires like math or measurements, that's a complicated thing.
Oh man, well I just found out that some DAWs have an issue with rendering like stems in a sample accurate fashion, and particularly Ableton and Logic. And so apparently, like a bunch of experienced people, this is like commonplace, and they'll place a sine wave at the end of each track. So then that way, when they export, they can double check and make sure that everything is phase aligned.
That's really smart, actually. That's really
and I
smart,
found out
actually.
about that, and I was like, that sounds like,
God, I've gotten stems with little blips at the beginning, and I'm like, why are these here?
dude, like it's
oh my god,
yeah,
that's
and
actually
that
crazy.
makes sense.
I have never all of
real
these people,
moment. Like,
yeah, dude,
Yeah,
this Discord I'm in, all of these people were talking
Yeah.
about it, and like it was just common knowledge, and I was like, I've never heard of this. I'm still kind of new to Ableton, but now I'm mostly working in Ableton, and that makes me not want to touch Ableton ever again.
Yeah, that's freaky.
I don't.
You
want
would
to
think
do
Ableton
that.
of all DAWs.
Well, here's the deal. Ableton actually has a lot of issues because Ableton's entire purpose is playback.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
meant for
like it's like
it's
a
not meant
live.
for mixing.
It's very good for the
Yes.
live thing.
Yes, exactly. And
wow.
that's also why, like, on most computers, you could just start up Ableton and your fans kick on. It's because Ableton utilizes system processes differently to prioritize playback, while like Pro Tools, Cubase, they don't do that. And so
FL doesn't even do that. Like it prioritizes the usage of the internals, not the output.
You know what FL
playback.
really fucking prioritizes? My damn graphics card for some reason.
Yeah, well,
All these
Really?
animations. No, for real. It's a
That's
GPU hog. I have a
crazy.
Deadmau5 story where Deadmau5 told me about FL sucking like that.
Yeah, and so yeah, like also I don't know if they fixed it. I don't think they've touched the audio engine since like Ableton 9. But apparently, if you use groups in Ableton, it slightly degrades bit depth.
Whoa.
Yes.
That
And then also,
sucks.
you can't tell me differently, but I swear to God, Ableton playback sounds way different than Cubase or Pro Tools. Cubase
It does sound different than Pro Tools. That's why I can't
Cubase
mix
playback,
in Ableton.
I've also heard a lot of people talk about how they think that Cubase playback sounds different. And I don't know if I'm just making this up, but I swear that Cubase 10 and Cubase 11 playback sound different than Cubase 12. Because now Cubase 12 sounds like Pro Tools. Like there's no difference.
I could. That's so weird. How does that work?
But like I swear, I was just talking to Lee about this because like we were working on a song and I had my Ableton session up, and like I could not get any of the subs to hit, which is like a common problem I have in Ableton. And I was just like, we're gonna roll with that. We're gonna export to Cubase. We put it in Cubase, and it was just like perfect.
That's so weird. That would make me stop using a DAW.
But like it's so strange because it's like it almost makes me faster. Like the time it takes for me to like export stems, load into Cubase, and like finish the song, like is almost like
better to
zero
just waste
because of how much time I save making everything and how much better the productions come out. Like I'm currently figuring out a way where I can just where I can print in, like as I go, have my session set up so I can have a group filled with audio tracks just for printing. So then that way I don't have to worry about exporting like groups plus their stems and then having to sort through them afterwards. But yeah, like dude, it's so weird whenever you look into like how different DAWs like prioritize things and like how playback is different. Like technically, like Pro Tools HD is gonna be, what is it? Does it have to do with jitter? I think it has to do with jitter because like core audio just isn't the best to work with audio, and like neither is like ASIO, like Windows
ASIO, really.
Yeah, and so
it's not meant for such a high bit depth or a high bit rate or sample rate.
So technically Pro Tools HD sounds better than any
because
other
it's because it's an external card. You run all of your DSP and everything, like all of your audio in and out on an external card that can run like a 96 or 120K like sample rate.
It's not necessarily that. It's the actual like audio engine itself.
Really? I would. I've always heard that. I've always heard that it's because a computer can't run that high that it's the rack unit that like handles all of that, which is probably also true, but
that's why your mix sounds different whenever you play it after you listen to it in your DAW. It'll sound slightly different,
so
and it's because core audio sucks.
Weird.
You know what, I always
now DAWs are starting to change though. Like Wavelab, up until like last year, the only way you could get around. I mean, and we're talking about such a small difference.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. This is like a 1-2% difference. Yeah,
like it's not worth like the investment until you're working on like number ones, you know, because it just doesn't matter at our level. But I find it extremely interesting. Because we're kind of told that like these things don't matter and they're all the same, and it's like, well, technically they're not the same, so why don't we talk about it and waste time? And like up until last year, no other DAW was able to do that besides Pro Tools HD until Cubase updated Wavelab to bypass core audio. Which is crazy. Nuts. It's crazy. And
also great mastering software.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things. Like people either love Wavelab or they despise it. But
I used to use it on the old studio that I was at. They had it, and I pedaled around with it some when I was mastering some records, and I didn't hate it. It was pretty fine. I'm also not a mastering engineer, to be fair, so grain of salt there. I would love to talk and maybe have Scott teach us FL Studio. How does this work? I don't understand FL Studio.
So FL Studio. What was the quote? What was the quote?
Yeah. Well, Josh, what was the thing that you said?
FL Studio works the way that you imagine DAWs work if you've never opened a DAW.
And that's why I use it. Because it was also just like my friend was like, "Hey, just use this," and I learned it from him. Yeah, but sure. It doesn't feel like. What the fuck is an aux send? I don't know what that fucking means. Just make it go here, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's
there's a little, you like drag little lines or something, right?
No, you just when you're selected on a track, there's a little arrow that's underneath other tracks. You can either just click it and it also sends it there, or you could right click it and set it as like a side chain. You could make it like send to this track only, so it'll disconnect other stuff. Like, it's just quick and easy, and I don't care what it's called. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just know what I need to do. Like, that's like the funniest thing, because people like don't get it. Because people that actually make music, I don't mean to like put down my other FL Studio users, but like I came at it from that angle personally. FL is insane and it's incredible. Mm-hmm. But it's just like fun. Like I don't know. When I look at like other DAWs, I'm like, this sucks. This looks like I'm looking at fucking Visual Studio or some fucking shit my programmer